Hello! This is the third video at Ballyhoo Creations and I'm already feeling tattered from the whole video making process. Creating quality video is harder than I thought it would be, and I feel like sticking my head in the sand, so it seemed the perfect time to make this ostrich. Watch as I show you how to make this hipster little birdie in a stitchy style, and we'll put that little doll on a big chocolate bar, because chocolate makes everything better. Before you stamp on fabric, make sure it's ironed flat because wrinkles will mess up the stamping process. I prefer StazOn ink for fabric because it doesn't bleed. According to the manufacturer, they have other inks for fabric, but I like StazOn. I'm using the Tim Holtz Hipster Ostrich stamp and die that I found at Tuesday Morning for only $5.99. Check the description box for the whole supply list. I'm going to stamp the head on unbleached muslin, and now I'm going to stamp the shirt on a piece of white linen that was salvaged from a white linen blouse because I like to buy thrift store fabric. And then this is a jelly roll with this aqua dot. I'm going to stamp the pants on the back of this fabric, and I'm going to do the same thing. I had a pink piece that I stamped the vest on the back, and I'm going to layer everything onto a piece of tearaway stabilizer. So the head, I'm going to cut out the shirt, I'm going to cut right up next to the collar and lay that on top. And I'm going to do the same thing with the pants, cut off right next to the waistband and line that up. And the ostrich also came with dies, including glasses, so I cut 3 layers of the glasses and I glued them together with white glue. I'll use that later on. My sewing machine is already set up for free motion embroidery. I'm not going to get into the details of how to do that in this video, but any machine can do this technique. You just need to find out what your machine needs for it. And then I'm going to stitch around the stamped outline of the clothes. I'm doing the pants here in this part. And after you stitch that on, you'll want to trim the threads really close to the front of the fabric, but leave about a 1-inch thread tail on the back of your project. That'll keep the threads from coming undone. It also keeps them from showing on the front because you can clip them right up next to the fabric when you're ready to do that. Clip, clip, clip. Those curved embroidery scissors come in very handy with a project like this. You can get right up next to the stitch line when you cut, and since this is going to be an embellishment, it won't be washed or played with or anything, so I don't need any of that seam allowance. I can trim right up next to the stitch line, and the curved embroidery scissors let me get as close to that stitch line as possible. You can stitch as many details on the stamped image as you want. I'm doing the buttons here, and I'll trim the threads really close to the front of the fabric there. Here I'm going to stitch around the head. I'm doing a lot of the jagged feathers, doing his hat, just getting the details in there. I didn't do his eyes because I'm going to put the glasses on, so I wanted the eyes to be more faded. And now he's stitched and ready to have the backing attached. So I'm going to place another piece of muslin over the front and stitch that down. You could use a pattern fabric if you wanted to, just make sure you do right sides together because we're going to turn them inside out later. So I'm sewing just outside of that stitched free motion embroidery stitched outline. That way when I turn it right side out, the outline will still show. It's a lot of stitching with free motion embroidery, and I've sped this up so you can tell it takes a really long time to get all the stitching done, but if you're into stitching like I am, it's kind of the fun part. Except, you know, your eyes get really tired from staring at it so long. Now I'm going to tear away that tearaway stabilizer and pull it off the edges and cut away the excess fabric. And then clip all the corners, get them ready to be turned. You want to turn this guy inside out with a lot of patience and love and a hefty pair of hemostats. This took a lot longer than I'm showing you. Turning something this small takes a lot of patience because every millimeter is a victory, so you don't want to tear anything or break a seam. But I did manage to get him turned, and I'm going to excavate the arms from the body cavity there. That was quite fun. Now I'm going to trim away some excess threads, and I'm going over with a tape roller to clean him up. We still want him tattered because, you know, life is hard. And then we're going to iron him flat. Get my little tiny iron out. It looks painful, doesn't it? Man, life really is hard for an iron right in the face. And I want him to be puffy. So I put a little polyfill inside using my long hemostats. Honestly, I think I would skip the backing and the turning and the stuffing next time and just do it on something flat. But, you know, wanted to see how it looked with the little puffy doll there. Kind of like a paper doll made into a regular doll. I don't know, it's sort of a cross between the two. Now I've got this big, huge chocolate bar, and I'm just going to cover it with some gray cardstock that has a linen texture. Pretty simple there, just fold it around. Probably spent too much time showing you that, huh? And then I'm going to embellish it. I got some washi tape. There's a little acrylic tag. Some different fabrics that I used in his clothes. I've wrapped that around the chocolate bar. And now I'm just going to sit here and play with this ribbon, trying to figure out how to do it. Play with it, play with it. I didn't like it, kept changing it. It's covering up too much of the doll, and there's way too many stitches to be covered up like that. And there's some black and white twine. I use that on, I don't know, everything. I gravitate towards that stuff. You can see I kept playing with it, trying to figure out how to embellish this chocolate bar with this little doll. And eventually I ended up just taking off the ribbon around the neck and using the twine. So you can see in the finished project, he looks like this. It's also got a little tiny piece of fabric tied around his neck, and then the twine is holding him on there. All the stitching around his vest and his shirt, you can see I glued those little glasses on with some fabric glue. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe so I'll know somebody out there's watching. Otherwise, I may end up sad and eating way too much of that huge chocolate bar with my new little ostrich friend.